Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do my June monthly recap slash favorites video, and I think I have quite a few things to talk about, so let's just get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is the book that I read this month. It was Zenith by Tasha Ellsberg and Lindsay Cummings, and here's the thing. I feel like Zenith has gotten a lot of shit on BookTube within the last year or so or whatever since it's come out. I don't want to add to the shit pile or anything, because the thing is, this isn't really a horrible book. So many people talk about it as if it's the worst thing they've ever read, or just they just constantly talk about all the negative parts of it. And here's the thing. In my opinion, it's a very average book. You could probably watch just about any booktuber's review video dedicated exclusively to Zenith, and I'll probably agree with many of the things that they say. In fact, I made the mistake of watching a couple of these videos before I even read the book or even had it in my lineup, and I definitely think that sort of skewed my opinion, which is really unfortunate and is something I wish I hadn't done. But with that said, it's hard to say some of the things that I do like, because sci-fi generally isn't my genre of choice for books or movies or TV or anything, but it read to me like, I don't know, not quite middle grade, even though it's called young adult, but something about it just seemed underdeveloped. And I mean, it's not a bad story, it's entertaining enough, it held my attention okay. I wasn't clawing to pick it up every night, but I got through it fairly easily, and it wasn't dragging on and making me miserable. So it's really hard to say the things that I did like about it, because it's just not really my cup of tea, but I will say that it was entertaining. And it was an interesting story. But as far as the negative things go, yeah, the plot was a bit shaky at times, and some of the things that the characters would say were a little awkward or cliche, and something about it just felt underdeveloped. I feel like that's the best word I can use to describe it. I think I even found 2 grammar/spelling errors in it, which to me is not something that you should find in a traditionally published book that was a New York Times bestseller. And I wonder if maybe part of it is because there's 2 authors, so there was some sort of maybe conflict, or just something that didn't quite add up between the entire book, and it's told through multiple perspectives, so that kind of skewed things a little bit too. And maybe they felt some pressure from the publisher to get it done at a certain time, because I know, of course, they probably had a deadline, but something about it just seemed like it wasn't enough. It was just okay. That's all I can that's all I can really think to say, is that it was just meh and okay. But it wasn't as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, so I don't want to sit here and make it sound like it's really bad or that I hated it, because I didn't. I just had a very lukewarm feelings towards it. So that was the only book that I read this month. So let's just move into the next category, which is movies, and I have quite a few for this category. Couldn't think of the word. The first movie that I have on the list is Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And I actually watched this the second time because I watched it on my own, and then my husband wanted to watch it as well. I really enjoyed the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I felt like it was very unique. It was funny. There was lots of action and stuff like that. And the second one was pretty similar in a lot of ways. And I did feel like at times they were trying too hard to sort of revisit the same sort of funny things, or I don't know, one-liners and stuff that they tried to in the first movie. But it wasn't bad or anything. I still thought it was funny. I thought there was interesting action, and yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Alright, pause. I have a work call. Alright, I don't know what's going on here. So the next movie that I watched this month was War Dogs. This is a movie that came out in 2016, and it's considered a biographical dark crime comedy movie. That was a mouthful. Basically about a young man who offers his childhood friend a chance to become an international arms dealer for the Iraq and Afghanistan military. So they basically exploit government, I don't know what you call it, a government initiative that allows businesses to bid on US military contracts, and somehow they find these weapons and manage to sell them to different countries for millions of dollars. And it really surprised me that apparently this really happened, because I just don't know how someone even gets into that and doesn't get killed doing it. I mean, if you watch the movie, you'll find that they almost get killed lots of times, but it was just really interesting, to just try and wrap your head around the idea that, oh, these are just some random ass Americans, young people. Alright, so this video has already been interrupted twice now. Let's just keep going. I don't remember what I was saying about War Dogs, but I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, so yeah, I liked it. It was interesting. Moving on. The next movie that David and I watched was I Am Mother, which is a Netflix movie. I believe it's a Netflix original movie, and I think it's fairly new. So it's basically about a girl who is raised by a robot, like a very humanoid acting robot in a world that has been devoid of humans. Humans have been completely eradicated, so there's this one like bunker that's full of all these embryos that's just waiting to like repopulate the earth. But the robot also has to learn how to be a mother and how to raise them, so she just takes one out and raises this girl entirely by herself to sort of be like the perfect human, or whatever. And then a stranger comes into the complex, so that kind of stirs things up, and the girl starts to realize that there might be other people out there, and there's more to this whole world destruction and robots being in charge than meets the eye. That was a really bad explanation, but I thought it was interesting, and I gave it 4 stars. I need a drink. I need a stronger drink. Alright, the next movie I watched is mid-90s. Let me just check something real fast. I can't really see. Alright, so this movie actually came out fairly recently. It came out in 2018, and it's directed by Jonah Hill, and I think maybe he also wrote it. I'm like looking at the information right now. So this is about a 13-year-old boy who is kind of stuck between a troubled home life and this group of skater kids who are older than him that he befriends, and they're not like, you know, like the best friends in the world, but they're all just kind of like real kids, just skating, kind of getting in trouble and just trying to deal with life as a teenager living in the 90s. It seemed like it was really, I guess, like critically acclaimed in a lot of ways, but it didn't quite resonate that strongly with me. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very, like, or at least meant to be really realistic. I say that as someone who was never a 13-year-old boy and never befriended a bunch of skater kids in Los Angeles. So, whatever. It seemed like it was presented in a very realistic way, so I gave it 3.5 stars because it didn't really resonate with me, but I thought it was really cool how they tried to make it seem like these are just kids living their life and we're just sort of like watching a documentary about them. Alright, and the last movie on my monthly recaps / favorites video is actually one I watched last night. My husband and I watched Training Day, which came out a while ago. Came out in 2001, and it stars Denzel Washington as sort of a like street savvy, kind of goes against the grain police officer, and the rookie cop who is, what's his name? Ethan Hawke, that's his name, Jesus Christ. This movie, I think this is probably part of the reason why I didn't sleep very well last night. It's not like a scary movie, but it's pretty intense because Denzel Washington's character is very like intense. He plays a lot of like mind games with Ethan Hawke's character. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but it kind of makes you very uncomfortable as you're trying to figure out what game exactly he's playing. And so it's basically like a day in their life where the one is trying to train the other, and they have to go into like the most gritty, hard neighborhoods in, I believe it's in LA. Yes, it's in LA. It was interesting. I mean, it was a bit intense in the sense that I get really intense feelings when there's someone who's using like a psychological control over someone else who's a bit more naive or just doesn't really know what's going on. And there's a lot of situations where you're just kind of like, oh God, who's gonna die? Who's gonna get hurt? What's gonna happen? So it's a really good movie, though. I definitely enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, though I probably shouldn't watch it right before going to bed if I expect to get any sleep. Alright, my next category is TV shows, and I have 2. My husband and I spent the last, God only knows how many months, watching That 70s Show from start to finish. If you don't know what That 70s Show is, you've been living under a freaking rock. It's hilarious. It's about a group of kids just trying to live in the 70s and, you know, get through high school and do all these shenanigans and so on and so forth. And I think it's nostalgic for a lot of people. I know it's nostalgic for me, even though I didn't grow up in the 70s, but, you know, I think a lot of us have that group of friends that we grew up with, and we have all these, like, shenanigans that we do with them, no matter how boring life may seem sometimes, we just find ways to make it interesting and fun. And yeah, I really liked it. The one thing I will say was that the last like 2 seasons were probably the worst seasons out of all 8 seasons, I believe there is. And you can tell because some of the casts left the show and they were just trying so hard to make it limp along, and you could really feel like it just sort of fizzled out at the end. But overall, I thought it was a really funny show, and it just makes me feel very sentimental. And There were definitely some episodes that I saw for the first time without even realizing it, because of course I've had to rely on reruns my entire life watching that 70s show. But yeah, I love the show, and most people do too. And if you've never watched it, like, you should watch it on Netflix. I definitely gave it 5 out of 5 stars, if you're wondering. The next show, I started watching The Umbrella Academy. This is a sort of, I guess you can consider it a superhero type show. The lead singer of My Chemical Romance, he, I guess, wrote this comic along with someone else, and they adapted it to a TV show. So it's about these kids that are miraculously born all on the same day in 1989, even though their mothers were never pregnant when the day started. And they're all born with these, like, different kinds of superpowers. 7 are adopted by this very eccentric, sort of cold, not sort of caring old man who really just tries to train them to be superheroes. We get some flashbacks to them being children, and they're being raised to be superheroes, and they're, like, saving the day, like, from bank robberies and stuff like that. But eventually we obviously learn that they grow up and they all go their separate ways because they're just like, this guy's crazy, he doesn't really care about us, and this life is just ridiculous. So the show basically starts with the kids coming back because their adopted father has died, and so they kind of have to deal with that and sort of regroup and figure out where everyone's been. And then there's some new stuff that's happening, but I haven't finished the show. I think I'm 8 episodes in. It's not like a perfect show. I've seen some people talking about how all the ways that it's not that great, and I'm like, it's entertaining. I don't need these perfect shows all the time. Sometimes you just need to be entertaining and something slightly different. And it is. I think it's a little bit different, and I like the whole superhero, people with powers kind of thing, obviously, because of Blood of Fire. Yeah, I mean, I think I ended up binging like 6 episodes in a row. You can tell my Saturdays are very interesting when I do stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's interesting, and I do want to keep watching it. It's not perfect by any means, but I don't care. I'm entertained and interested, and I would like to see where it goes, even though I think it's sort of been spoiled for me already, but I don't quite remember all the details, so I'm not gonna try and find them and re-spoil it for myself. Alright, and the final category is the miscellaneous category, and this one, I only have one item, and that is Mermaid Bridal, which is a dressmaking store on Etsy. This is where I got my wedding dress from, and if you guys want to see it, I will insert picture here. And you can also find other pictures on Instagram, but I didn't, like, model it or anything. But the thing is, we tried to make our wedding as cheap as possible, which is really difficult when it comes to weddings, considering the average cost of a wedding is, like, $30,000, which is just fucking insane if you ask me, like, why? But I did want to splurge on my wedding dress because I wanted to be something unique. And I did try to find other, cheaper options at like stores that sell prom dresses and at David's Bridal, but nothing was that unique. I was just not blown away by any of them. And I thought, if I'm going to spend at least some decent amount of money on a dress, I want it to be something that's unique and looks pretty and is not just some boring whatever dress. So I looked on Etsy and I found Mermaid Bridal, and her designs are incredible. And they range from like very eccentric and unique to much more traditional stuff, but just the detail is amazing, and the price range is pretty good. I think some of the cheaper dresses were around like $100 something, and I think more expensive ones were maybe like $400 or $500. I think you could just order the dress as it is if it's in stock, and then take it somewhere to be tailored. But I sent them my measurements and they custom made the dress to fit me. So that was really cool. So when I got it, it fit. I mean, it was like pretty skin tight on me, but at least I didn't have to go find someone to try and tailor it. And here's the downside, is because this seller is in China, if you're not in China or any place near there, odds are you're going to have a really long wait. I kind of almost got screwed over when it came to shipping. And I know on their website or on the Etsy store site, they say we need this many weeks ahead of time if you're looking for a custom order, and I ordered well within that range, or maybe before. I think I ordered at least like 2 or 3 months before I needed it, and it was late for every estimate. So they estimated that it would ship by whatever date, and it was at least like 2 weeks later than that. So it got me not really mad. I mean, I started to get mad after a while when it was like 3 weeks later than it should have been, and that's kind of not something you want to worry about when your wedding is coming up. You don't want to have to rush to find some random ass dress, especially when I already spent the money and I didn't want to have to fight for a refund or anything like that. But it ended up working out just fine. I did get it about maybe 2 weeks before our wedding date. So I did have time to actually try it on and make sure that I didn't need to get any alterations, and I didn't, and I really like the design. So I would definitely recommend them if you're looking for something much more unique than some of the typical stuff you might find in stores. However, make sure you order as far out as you possibly can, like months in advance if you can, because if you're not near China, odds are you're going to be waiting a really long time for them to custom make the dress and then do all the extras and make sure it's your size and get it shipped to you wherever you might live. But I would definitely recommend them. I was definitely frustrated by the whole shipping thing and not knowing what the hell was going on, but I really loved the dress. And now it's unfortunate that I don't really have any reason to wear it except maybe like some random photo shoot for some reason. Who knows? Maybe I'll find a reason to wear it for something. Alright, so that was my June monthly favorites / recap. What were my favorites? The book, I can't really call it a favorite because it was such a lukewarm book. Sorry, Zenith. Movies. I think my favorite was Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because I love comedy, and even though it kind of recycled a few things from the previous movie, I still thought it was very entertaining. For TV shows, I think I'm going to have to go with that 70s show because it's just a classic at this point to my generation, and I did watch all of it, so I don't know how the Umbrella Academy ends, so I can't really say that it's a favorite. And the miscellaneous, I mean, all there is the one store. If by default that's a favorite, I don't know. I guess so. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. If you'd like to keep up with me on my other social media accounts, I'll link them below in the description, as well as my self-published novel, Blood of Fire, which is available on Amazon and Kindle. I kind of did that backwards than I usually do. Anyway, I'm tired of filming, and yes, I'm going to end now. So, until next time, see ya. Monthly favorites video. What the fuck?